Are you stuck in OCD mindlock where you can't get out of that trap of overthinking, over-analyzing everything? Today, I'm sharing 3 simple strategies to help you when you find yourself really getting stuck in your thoughts. And if you find this content helpful, it would be fantastic if you could subscribe. It really does help other people who might be struggling to find the right kind of support. And many thanks. Back when I was really struggling, one of the worst things about it was I was always getting stuck in my head, looking for certainty, getting really caught up in the thoughts, getting so annoyed with myself, so frustrated and angry because all I could do was kind of, think about these things and try to have more and more certainty about them. And, which obviously led to me kind of getting more and more caught up, getting stuck in the trap, looking for that certainty. And it's a really horrible place to be. It really does feel like your mind has locked up and, you can't get yourself out of it again. I think this is one of the most difficult things about OCD because you end up feeling disempowered. You feel like your own mind is kind of working against you, almost like it wants you to be stuck. And, this isn't true, but obviously when we're really getting caught up in these things all the time, well, it begins to bring your mood down. You begin to feel, upset, a bit kind of blue about everything that's going on. Sometimes that can even lead to depression for some people. For me, it would often lead to kind of low mood where for a few days I'd be really angry with myself. I'd be so frustrated and angry. Other people aren't struggling with this like I do. Why am I like this? Sort of this kind of self-judgment would come in. And of course, that would make the situation even worse because the more that you kind of beat yourself up when you're struggling with this kind of mind lock situation, the more that your mind actually kind of shuts down. And so it's so important that we have some strategies in these kinds of situations so that we know there are things that we can do, that we don't just have to play that kind of OCD game of looking for certainty, that actually there's clear strategies that we can apply and they will help. So tip number 1 is really realizing that you really do have choice over the OCD. So often I think we feel disempowered by it. We feel that, we have to kind of perform those compulsions because if we don't, well, the anxiety is going to get worse and worse. We're going to feel more and more awful. And, it's not going to help us by not performing the compulsions. We might as well just do the compulsion. But when you realize that you have choice and that actually you act on that, well, what happens is you start providing evidence to yourself that you can choose different things. You don't have to do the same old thing, and you start building more and more confidence in yourself. So how do you act on that choice? Well, it's really through choosing 1 or 2 things that you're going to prove to yourself that you can do, despite the OCD being very loud and annoying in the background. And this is really kind of related to exposure. It's really kind of choosing something specific that you want to work on, something that's maybe difficult for you, and proving to yourself that through choice, by choosing that thing and then deciding to go ahead and do that difficult thing, or not avoid that thing, or approach that thing, or not check something, or no matter what it is, no matter what your theme is, there's a way of you leaning into that discomfort, walking up to or approaching that thing, and doing it, and proving to yourself that actually your power of choice is one of the most important things here. If we didn't have choice in relation to OCD, then we would be stuck. We wouldn't be able to get ourselves out of these very difficult situations that we find ourselves. But when we, really get in touch with that idea that, we have some autonomy over our situation and, we can make different choices moving forward. And then we start collecting evidence of that by proving to ourselves that we can do it, by taking that action. well, that starts to feel really good. And over time, it can really help you to break out of this kind of mind lock situation. The next tip is really powerful, and that is actually to do something altogether different. What's going on when you're finding yourself in mind lock is you've been thinking about this thing so much, obsessing about it, trying to have that certainty about it, that actually you've overheated the prefrontal cortex, this part of the brain here, which is actually your kind of reasoning, logic part of the brain. And people with OCD typically spend far too much time stuck up here in this part of the brain trying to figure everything out. And when we do that, well, we end up overheating those circuits. And that's when we really run into trouble, because we've been trying so hard to figure that thing out that we've actually exhausted ourselves. We've overheated that part of the brain. And now we have less and less clarity about the thing that we've been trying to figure out. And that's why it's so important that we learn how to do something altogether different in these situations. And that is to try to move your awareness down from the head all the way down into the body, into the belly, or into the chest, or into the heart. When you're a bit more embodied and you can actually pay attention to what you're feeling in your body, often you begin to kind of move past trying to figure out that OCD. When we can learn to be more in the body, often those kind of obsessions, well, they begin to kind of undo themselves. Not because we figured it out, but because we've given, the obsession a bit of space. We haven't said that we need to figure it out. And just by letting it go for a short while and trying to focus on something else, or focusing directly on the body itself, often that anxiety starts to come down, and we realize that actually, we can deal with it and we don't have to think about it anymore. And obviously that can be a great way to get yourself out of that kind of OCD trap. The final tip is to focus on values. OCD wants us to focus on our fears, on all of these horrible things that we're telling ourselves have gone wrong, could go wrong, might go wrong in the future. And we're going around in circles with them. We're really focusing almost all of our attention on our fears and trying to get rid of them or push them down in some way. And unfortunately, all that does is draw our attention to them even more. So what do I mean by focusing on values? Well, if you imagine a stage, the stage is your life. It's really where all of your values and your goals are. All of the people and things in your life that are important to you, all of your hobbies, all of the activities that you enjoy, your meaningful work, whatever it might be. Everything is there on that stage. And when we're dealing with OCD, well, it's because our attention is on the stage. It's not focused on, these unhelpful things. The way in which I like to think about this is really this. If you imagine a spotlight, and when we're doing well, we're actually holding the spotlight on the stage and we're shining it on the important things. Maybe when you're with your friends, well, you're shining your spotlight on them. When you're doing your work, you're shining your spotlight on that. What tends to happen with OCD is it almost seems to kind of steal this spotlight from us. And the spotlight goes all the way over here to stage left, or all the way over here to stage right. It's now illuminating a brick in the wall that nobody else wants to pay attention to, but we do, because we've made an obsession out of it. And really what we're doing is we're saying that our fears are more important than the stage, than our values. And of course, that isn't true. And what we need to do is to learn how to gently, but in a determined way, to keep bringing that spotlight back. Anytime that we realize that we're getting distracted by our thoughts or anything else, we just need to make sure that we keep bringing that spotlight back to the stage. And by doing so, well, now our attention remains more on the important things, our values and our goals. Our fears begin to take a bit more of a back seat, and that's really how it should be. So many thanks, guys. I really hope that you found that helpful. Please do subscribe. And remember, I offer a free discovery call. To get that, you can head over to my website, robertjamescoaching.com. There's a link in the show notes. Many thanks, and I'll see you next time. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are dealing with OCD, anxiety, or any mental health concerns, please consult a licensed mental health professional for support.